Hey everyone, today I am going to be talking about storytelling, and storytelling is a very important thing for photographers to learn, not just actually telling the stories yourself as far as like actual visuals go, but actually telling the stories of you as a photographer, because there are so many photographers. It is such a crazy competitive space that there are thousands, if not like maybe tens of thousands of photographers in your state or in your province, and you really have to do something to step away from them, and at least connect with your target, with your specific audience. So the number one way and the best way to do that, once you've crafted your skills and you're happy with where you're at in photography, is by telling your story, by connecting people to your actual what's happened to you, why you became a photographer, and the process and what's going on in your mind as far as like what makes a perfect photography shoot, whether it's a wedding or a commercial shoot or a portrait shoot. The background on me that most of you guys know already is that I came from concerts, and I really kind of used that story for a very long time. That I was the concert photographer, that those friends started getting married, and then at some point I kind of moved into doing their weddings, and then that just kind of took off, and that's where I am today. Pretty simple story. The things that I used to kind of touch on a little bit more were to, I guess, make up for my lack of full credibility in the photography industry, was the fact that shooting concerts and shooting really low light, challenging environments with lots of people, lots of movement, and unpredictable movement as well, that really trained me to be a wedding photographer. So that is kind of the story that I relied on in the very beginning, that gave me at least the technical abilities. It's like, why are you qualified to accept this check to shoot our wedding? So that kind of covered the technical, and then the actual wedding images that I went out and kind of shot on my own, and booked some weddings through Craigslist and a few other different ways to build a small portfolio, or the way that I kind of got started into photography. So for a long time, that was my kind of the walkthrough of my life. I also really wanted to touch on the actual things that gave me credibility. So in season 2 of American Idol, I believe somewhere around there, between 1 and 4, American Idol used one of my images and they put it up on a billboard. So as soon as they did that, that was kind of like the thing that gave me credibility, that if American Idol, which was a huge show during that time, was trusting me enough to use one of my images to use in their marketing, that obviously I had to be like a pretty good photographer. So any media mentions, any sort of anything like that at all, as far as like photography, my images just being out there, I would collect and I would put them in a spot where couples and clients could see instantly that, like, oh, this guy actually does have credibility. The way that I originally did that was through micro stock photography. So I had lots and lots of images out there in the world, lots of like portraits of myself, because that was the easiest thing to shoot, that I could easily like put on like a costume or something and do some shoots, or I had lots of musical instruments. So there was lots of opportunities. So I was really just creating within whatever was possible within my house and my space. And by creating these images, I went on Google, and you can actually go to the Google image search, and you can just like basically link to the JPEG of one of your images, or even upload one of your images, and it will match to anything else that has either been, I guess you can use this to find anybody that's stolen your images. It'll show you anywhere online that's actually using your images, or using that specific image, rather. So I went online on Google image search and just did that, and I was just looking for other companies, other corporations that had a little bit of clout to basically create like a digital tear sheet to put on my blog, to give myself a little bit more credibility. And that was all, while they were selecting the images from like microstock sites, they weren't really paying a lot from it. But clients don't really need to know that. The fact that my images were good enough to end up on their websites, or to end up in their newsletters or the collateral or whatever it was a very good thing. Another thing that I started to focus on was travel, as soon as I found out how important that was and how much credibility that builds. And I involved that in my story as much as I possibly could, very early on. And I've kind of turned off of it a little bit now, only because I do travel so much. And if I was constantly posting all the time about travel things, that people wouldn't even believe that I still shoot weddings. So I'm trying to keep the story now that I do travel a lot, that I do work all over the world, but I do most of my summers back here at home where I photograph weddings. So a lot of my couples are very aware of that they know as soon as like November hits that I am on the road or on airplanes quite a lot. But then as soon as May comes again, that I will be back pretty much the entire summer to photograph weddings. So they seem to enjoy that, and they seem to either follow me along, or when I actually show up to their weddings, they actually know a lot of the stuff that we've done. The other beneficial thing, I guess, is that a lot of couples, once you kind of establish yourself almost as like a travel expert, a lot of them will be asking me for honeymoon advice as well, which is kind of fun. So that whenever we sit down for the first meeting, that we're not actually just talking about like full wedding things, that we're actually talking a lot more about like just travel and where they can actually go on their honeymoon. And that seems to create a much more exciting conversation than just talking about the actual wedding day for the most part. I know that sounds kind of a little funny because it's like they're in the beginning stages of planning their wedding, but also they can see that kind of the payoff, that the reward of going through this wedding process is that they get to go on an awesome honeymoon. So I'm happy to help with that as much as I can. The other thing that I do within kind of my story and the story that I'm constantly telling through all of my media and printed media as well, even that I give to my couples and my pricing documents and everything that I am doing is really conditioning them, or just like making sure that I connect really well with exactly what they see their wedding day being. And I've said it lots because I think that it's important to keep kind of repeating it. And my favorite, like my best wedding day ever is kind of that 8-hour day where I show up an hour before they get ready. So an hour before she gets her dress on, or they get their suits on or whatever. And as soon as kind of that happens, I'm just with them for the day. We do some family photos for half hour, maximum. Usually it's like 15 minutes. I also tell them that like I really only need 45 minutes to an hour to do photos of the entire family, of you guys and your bridal party if they are having a bridal party. And whenever they kind of learn that that is the minimum time requirement, they seem to get very excited about me as their photographer. So again, if you listen to yesterday's podcast about winter shoots and why they're challenging, and really just kind of refining your efficiency and only doing what works and doing it very, very quickly. Not in a way that seems rushed to your clients, but in a way that you're just getting all the stuff that you know is going to be good and not really experimenting too hard when it's cold out and the experience really isn't that great. That is really what I do focus on whenever I'm talking to my couples in the first meeting or the first phone call or Skype meeting or whatever it might be. The other way that I'm telling my story always is also when I'm at shoots, the way that I talk about my process for actually taking pictures and why I'm doing some of the things that I'm doing. And I call it out, like if I'm doing something weird that I think is going to look good, I laugh about it a little bit, and I tell them if it worked or not. And if it worked really well, maybe we keep doing it. If it didn't work, we just instantly start moving on. And it seems to be okay with them that I'm still experimenting, I'm still learning, and I obviously still am passionate about photography, which I think is something that is very important to them. So now not only do I have my own collateral and my own media and my own like bio and everything on my website and on my social media telling about my story and myself, my approach, I also have all of these clients out there in the world that are also talking about me, that whether it's in a corporate setting or it's in a wedding setting, that they're telling their friends, they're telling their coworkers about how easy it was to work with me. And I really do focus on how easy I can make it regardless of what I'm shooting. I want it to be the most efficient and the easiest and the most stress-free possible. I really do my best to remove all stress from all situations. So I just want to come in, I want to create the best work. I do everything I can to possibly diagnose problems before we actually even get to the shoot so that we never really have to troubleshoot too much on the day. Obviously, there still is always a little bit of troubleshooting, but I do my best to just come into the day completely prepared to do the best job possible in the fastest way possible in a positive way. So what is your story? Where did you come from? Why are you doing photography? It is important to tell everyone, and also what your ideal photography scenario is for whatever it is that you want to be doing, whether it is commercial or corporate or weddings or portraits or Santa Claus photos or whatever you're up to. Really just make it crystal clear why you are doing what you're doing, and just have your client essentially plug themselves into that experience, that is exactly what they want, that it's essentially a sales pitch without it being a sales pitch. There's also a great audiobook as well, called Building a Story Brand, that's really good. Also, I've just started listening to Seth Godin. This is Marketing is the audiobook that I'm currently playing. So if you're interested in listening to those two books, I think they'll do a lot of good. Even though I'm only like 45 minutes into the Seth Godin book, it's really, really good. Also, his podcast Akimbo is also really awesome. If you're not following that, there's a lot of good content on there. I think it's every week. Every time that I see that one pop up, I click on it though. So it's one of my favorites, and it's every individual topic is really, really well done, and it is not something that is related to photography, but I think it's important for us to pull from all different sources outside of the photography realm in order to create the best possible business for you. So that is all for today. I hope that you're having a lovely day wherever you are in the world. Happy Monday. Fireworks noises. I don't really insert too many sound effects into here. Otherwise, that would have been fireworks noises. But yeah. See you tomorrow.